Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 14 of Bobble Pod for season 3. Last week, I discussed what does a recession mean for your business, and this week we're going to take it to a more sub-level of marketing during a recession, which is going to be a really key important aspect based on the conversation/rant I had in episode 13. But before we begin, as always, thank you for listening and thank you those who subscribe. If you're listening for the first time, don't forget to like, follow and subscribe on our podcast streaming platforms. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hello YouTube. Which I have a really good update to come out in a few weeks about that one, which is quite interesting. Do subscribe and follow our channel on YouTube as well. And you get to watch me rant on episode 13 as opposed to just listen. So this episode, marketing during a recession, is a very, very important one. The reason it's really important is because what I always find is the first mistake, and I'm going to call it a mistake, the first mistake businesses make in a recession-style economy is not only do they reduce costs elsewhere, but they reduce costs in the only channel or stream that's going to provide them with new business and, a steady source of income in terms of revenue. Now, it varies whether you're e-commerce or B2B, but if you're e-commerce, you need to double down your efforts on marketing, really. Yes, your margin is going to be lower, but you've got to start thinking about not just the short term, but the long term. If you are an e-commerce business, you need to be right now, this very second, putting together a recession marketing strategy. It's basically, you've got your business strategy and objectives, your aims and objectives, your marketing strategy and your digital marketing strategy support your business aims and objectives. And then you're going to have this subset for the next 2 years, which is going to be your recession strategy. What do we do in, difficult, weathering storm, atmosphere when we have, cost of living crisis, we've got squeezed pockets from, consumers, and that's who you're going to rely on if you're an e-commerce client. If you're B2B, it's very similar, but, smaller businesses aren't going to be willing to invest or to, part with money, whereas medium to more larger enterprises will be, but they'll take longer and they'll do more due diligence in terms of making sure they get the best book or best pound for value that they spend. Now, marketing during a recession. There's a quote I want to read out, and it's probably the best quote I've ever read. And I've mentioned this quote a couple of times. I think I mentioned it when I did a talk in April 2020 for Leeds Trinity University when I talked about, adapting and thriving your marketing during a pandemic. And the quote is probably perhaps the best quote about advertising in a recession came from a gentleman called Sam Walton, the founder of Wal-Mart. When asked, what do you think of a recession? He responded, I've thought about it and decided not to participate. Now that from a mentality perspective is key. Now I understand we're not all Walmart, we're not all billionaires, we don't have £1 billion worth of revenue to manage. However, step aside that the company is Walmart, the mentality is the right mentality you need going into recession. You have to look at it as a positive outcome and with a positive mindset to achieve positive results. If you go in thinking doom and gloom, then by all means, it's not going to really work. And there are some businesses right there. One of our clients, which is a solicitor client and a HR client, I was at a meeting with literally earlier today before this recording, and they know the recession is having an impact because micro businesses and SMEs are already selling their businesses or putting their businesses up for sale because the pandemic's taken its toll on most people, and they survived that. And some of the more older MDs out there are thinking, can I be really arsed with this? Can I be bothered with this? Is the recession coming? I'd rather get better value from a company now before we get into recession. And the bigger companies will come in and snap it up because they can just absorb it, the clients and elements, and uplift it and upsell it, and provide more value out of it than anything else. So there is more of an appetite for bigger businesses and smaller companies. I mean, we're not up for sale, by the way. If anyone's interested, we are not. I'm going to see Bobble through thick and thin, all the way through. We are prepared for this recession and we're going to hit it head on. And we're going to take that quote. I've decided I'm not going to participate in this recession. I'm going to continue doing what we're very, very good at, which is educating our clients on what and how they should do, which is why from this point onwards, you're going to see a lot of more recession, pandemic, education related content coming out. Now, people might say you're giving away a bit of your strategy. I really don't care. I'm here to provide value to my listeners. What I'm doing now as an agency in terms of the content, our blogs, and what we're going to focus on is, right, how do you market during a recession? What does a recession mean for your business? So think of our last two podcasts, the topics we've discovered. I can tell you now what's coming up in episode 15. It's business startup marketing, because there's always business that start up and always business that need to know where do they begin, where do they put their priorities. So a lot of our content is going to be like, where should you focus your attention on? What are the trends going on right now? How can you maximize revenue from PPC, SEO, paid social? It's giving as much information as we can out there. So when it comes to me going in front of a potential business that has the money to invest in marketing during a recession platform, I'm going to have the supporting evidence, that element where I mentioned in the last episode, people will have money, is whether they trust you with their money in terms of whether they invest it with you or not. And that trust comes with the fact that read our blogs on our website, listen to my podcast, attend our bite-sized events, and me going out and networking and talking to people and being a guest. I get invited. I'm very fortunate and lucky and privileged to be able to be invited to talk at places like Marketing Showcase, at universities, for lecture, as well as custom networking events that take place in the wider West Yorkshire region and sometimes down in London. So, and all I do there is educate. And all that content goes on my YouTube, goes on our LinkedIn, goes on our company social posts. And we're always out there saying, here's what you should be doing. Here's what you should be doing. Here's what it means for you and your business. And that's the whole idea of the podcast, is that, yes, sometimes I talk about random tangent elements, but that's the whole point. You don't just want to hear, do this, do that. You want to know there's a human element behind the podcast in terms of what it means for you. So it's that mindset from Sam Walton in terms of moving forward. And I'm going to practice what I preach. You will continue to see from now to the end of the year, me spending more into my advertising budget, marketing budget, making more noise than I don't really see them as competitors. Someone asked me this question the other day, is who are your competitors of? And I don't know, and I don't care. I don't care what my other agencies and leads do. I'm only interested in what Bobble Digital does. It's a bit of like the Apple and approach where, someone walked up to Apple and goes, the new Surface Pro is amazing. He's like, and the chief engineer of Apple turned around, I was like, I'm sure it is. Because they don't care what Microsoft does. They're not trying to be Microsoft Apple. They're trying to be Apple. I don't care what any of these other agencies and leads do, as big as they are or as small as they are. All I care is, what are we doing to make us more valuable to our clients? And what are we doing that stands out in a unique way that I know our other agencies in the area aren't doing, because that's my USP. And that's all it comes down to. Focus on you. Focus on selling your unique elements. There's a lot of things you can learn from the past, and I've got some stats elements I want to share with you. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's why I talk about having a marketing recession strategy in place. What you do now will have a drastic impact on your brand positioning and long-term sales and revenue as a business. So, because once the recession will end, and it will end, and we need, 2 quarters of growth to come out of a recession. Once we achieve that, and we will achieve that, normality will ensue. And, other companies will then start to turn the tap on and increase the tap of what they're doing with their marketing activity. But if you've been doing it from the start, you're going to end up with more market share. And you can always learn from the past. There's a lot of opportunities within a recession. The noise level in terms of the brand product category can drop when competitors specifically cut back on their ad spend. It allows other advertisers to reposition their brand and introduce new products. And I'll give an example of that shortly. Brands can project what I call corporate stability during challenging times. That is one of the objectives of what we're going to try to achieve is, we are a smaller agency, but look at what we're doing. We're still doing our podcast. We're still doing our bite-sized events. We're still doing blogs. We're still out there educating, providing value, not just to our clients, but to those who are struggling in the market and maybe can't even afford it. It's to show that we're still here making noise and still doing things. And that's why it comes back to that quote for Sam Walton: don't participate in a recession, do your own thing. The cost of advertising generally drops during an economic crisis because there's not as much competition. Now, if it's a mild recession, that's not going to have a drastic impact because people will still continue to invest. It just means the recession will last a little longer, but we won't feel it as bad. But we will longer term because it's going to take a long-term impact. It's going to take a long time to come out of it. But what that means is lower rates on buying, TV, spend on digital, buying, display elements. Your CPMs, CPCs may potentially become lower. It's an opportunity. And the key thing is when other marketing companies or marketing departments, brands, your competitors cut back on spend, they lose what I call there's a brand loss. There's a loss in that share of mind with consumers. And I say share of mind because recession isn't just about selling your products or services. It's what I mentioned earlier. It's about stability within your company. We're still here. We're still here to support you with your cost of living crisis, with the issues that you're dealing with as a consumer. We're still here to support you as a business. Here's some advice: attend our free events, learn how you can yourselves maximize digital marketing channel performance and take things further. They lose that share of mind. Whereas my job is to make sure that I increase my share of mind in my potential customers in the future. They may not invest now, but I guarantee you they will invest in a few months' time. And I've had that clients come up to me saying, I wasn't ready then and I wanted to monitor what you did, but I've been so impressed with what we share on social media, your podcast. I actually listened to your podcast. I was like, this agency seems to know what they're talking about. And obviously I talked about in the last episode, the depth that we go into with our strategy and audits that provides that trust and element. So that's why I'm not overly concerned, but it's that share of mind element. But more importantly, you share a voice. You're going to lose market share when you cut back. And one thing I'm telling all my clients now to do, and you might say, well, it's easy as an agency say to spend more. And I understand it. And I do say to my clients, if it's possible, you need to find more money in marketing come the recession, because your competitors will cut back. And if you increase, we can guarantee an increase in market share online, specifically in platforms where we measure share of voice in channels like search engine optimization. So the client I was with earlier, we had our first 3-month review. And in that 3 months, their share of voice increased from 20% against their competitors to 21%. 3 of the competitors dropped. 1 dropped by 1%. 2 of the smaller ones dropped from 9% down to 6%. But 1 competitor in particular grew by 6%. But they already confirmed, much bigger company, much more larger elements. So I was like, do you think that competitor is going to cut back come a recession? No, they're going to see it as an opportunity. And if I was managing them, I'd be saying the same thing to them as saying to you, if we were the market leader in terms of comparing the competitor elements. We're like, we have market share right now at 30, I think it was 34%. We should be looking at 50% or 50% more market share against your competitors when we come out of recession. And this is how you do it. Because that means more customers, when it normalizes, will come to us. Because they've built that trust, they've built that brand affinity. We've been in their minds. We've been helping them, supporting them, showing stability. Now that they're ready, they're all going to come to us as opposed to other competitors that haven't really been making a lot of noise out there. Do you hopefully now start to see or listen to the value of what that brings to you as a company? And that's what I tell my clients. In the last 2 recessions, I'm going to go back to the last 2, because like I said, there's a lot you can learn from a marketing perspective in terms of marketing recession by looking at the past in terms of what worked and what didn't work. In terms of quick service restaurants and, restaurants and elements like this are going to take a big hit. Food, retail in particular. In the 1990-91 recession, we're going way back. I was maybe two years old. I was born in 89, April Fool's Day. It explains a lot, me being born on April Fool's Day. But, you get the idea. It's 1991. Pizza Hut and Taco Bell took advantage of McDonald's decision to drop its advertising and promotion budget. As a result, Pizza Hut increased its sales by 61%. Taco Bell sales grew by 40%, whereas McDonald's sales declined by 28%. And McDonald's never reduced their budget in a recession ever since, because they let their competitions come in and eat up their customer share. There you go. Technology, and we do a lot with tech clients, and I really try to focus on the tech industry in particular. Amazon, during the 2009 Great Recession, and it was a big recession back then, grew sales by 28%. Why? Because it continued to innovate with new products during that slumping economy. Most notably, it launched that. How many, just hands up in this room, how many people got a Kindle?
I don't use Kindle.
Do you have a Kindle?
I don't.
You don't? I have a Kindle. I bought a Kindle back in 2009. The reason I bought it was like the reason everyone bought it. And they helped to grow market share. And at first it launched on Christmas Day 2009, where basically Amazon customers bought more ebooks than printed books as a result of the company's decision to innovate and introduce new products at a lower cost alternative. That's what they did. In the last episode, I talked about how you need to look at innovating, focusing on elements that work for you, launch new products that are in demand for your customers. And Amazon did that. They launched a little tablet, basically, which allow you to read books, and the books cost a fraction of the price than had a hardback copy because it was all digital, and they got people and more subscribers, and they grew their sales by 28% in a great recession. Now, granted, these are big company examples, but there's lessons to be taken from that. You can still achieve the same element. Now, I will measure success in 2023 by revenue and growth. And based on what we achieve by come end of December 2022, forget the year, right? We should know where we are heading for 2023. And if we see an increase, in 2023, which we should do, our goal will be to double again. So 300% increase from 2020 to 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we're looking at 100% increase in revenue. And now we're looking to keep that level going into 2023. Now, if we're growing and got more clients and elements coming on board, then that's success for us, because I'm going to continue investing and innovating and looking at new ways to provide value, insights, better services, etc. to my potential customers and my clients. And if I see my agency growing and other agencies dropping off and more clients coming more towards us, that's one of the measurable elements I can be able to look at to see if it's actually working or not. I'm just going to give a little bit of advice now, because we are talking about recession in the marketing. There's a lot to learn from the past in terms of what you can do, but those that invest in recession end up increasing sales and market share after the recession. If you're a small business, you're a micro business, and you have limited budgets, and you're thinking, well, how do I sustain that media spend and get best value out of it? You need to remember this word agile. You need to start to be a bit more agile with what you do. You need to be looking at your data a lot more thoroughly. You need to understand your audience and your customers a lot better. Really profile your audiences and customers. Understand who they are. Start getting as much feedback and insights from those customers. Ask them their pain points. What are their concerns? What are their worries? Start sending out questionnaires through email, newsletters, and elements like that. Engage with them with polls and social media instead of sending out a newsletter. Different ways to get information, feedback from your customers. What do you think of this? What are your biggest challenges? What are your concerns? Start getting information from your customers in terms of pain points, and then start sharing content value, creating products that actually help to some extent deal with the issues that your customers are dealing with, because they're the ones that are going to be loyal to you after recession, not during a recession, and rely on you, because when they're ready to buy, and they will all eventually be ready to buy, they will come to you. So it's important to understand your audience and what they're doing. It's important to understand on which of your digital channels are delivering the best ROI. But please remember, don't do the old thing where it's like just performance. Performance only comes if people know who the hell you are. There's an element of brand and performance to do it. I see a lot of clients come to it and we end up having, I won't say arguments, but disagreements, where it's like, all I care about is CPA, cost per acquisition, lowest CPC, clicks, click-through rate, conversion rate. Yes, most important measurable KPIs you need to think of, but not everybody buys on the first click. What is it on your website that's helping customers build that level of trust with you, that actually pockets are squeezed, but they trust that investing in your product is a better long-term investment for them or good value for them in terms of what they're getting. These are the things as a business you need to be looking into and really be looking down into, is understanding which channels are providing you with the best reach, best engagement, good return on investment in terms of spend. But remember, platforms like Google and social media, the ROAS, return on ad spend, will decrease over the next year or so. But as long as you're maintaining a healthy ROAS and it's not a negative or minimal, then that's still positive. And it's not to do with the performance of your agency. It's to do with the economic environment in which we're in and going into. And I know a couple of our e-commerce clients struggling with that, and we're trying to help educate them in terms of, right, okay, we're not achieving a 700% ROAS, but 4.61% is still good. So it's not doom and gloom. It's not like it's dropped significantly. Let's see what we can maximize with that with brand elements. So there is wins to be had. It won't be as great as the results you've had all 2021, maybe early 2022, but this is where you've got to dig in now. Dig in, understand your consumer mindset, your customer mindset, your client mindset, try and understand what they need and provide that support, understanding product services that they need. Remember, I said this last time, the recession will end. Get that strategy in place. And what we will do is we'll start creating a lot more content on our website and start sharing links and promoting it across our social media in terms of what does a, marketing plan for a recession look like? What are the things and tips and advice you need so that you can come back to it? And what I very, very rarely do encourage listeners to do is get in touch. Use the hashtag Mr. Bobble. Use the hashtag Ask Bobble. Go on our social page, DM us on LinkedIn, comment on our posts or our blogs and our articles, drop us a message on Instagram or on TikTok or any of our posts, put a question in there, or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm here to help. I'm here to provide advice. I'll provide as much insight and support as I can. Get in contact with us. Tell us what your concerns are. Tell us what you are struggling with or what your concerns are with the recession and marketing your product and company out there. And we'll do the best we can to help and provide support and value. Thank you as always for listening. Less of a rant this time. Hopefully there's some really good educational information there and you provide that useful. Don't forget to follow, subscribe if you're listening for the first time, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Hi YouTube. And don't forget to press the subscribe and the bell notification button. We look forward to catching you on episode 15 next Tuesday.